Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today we have Brahmastra Part 1, Shiva. This is a very, very Indian produced from Star Studios, which looks like the 20th Century Fox Studios, like the logo, like the whole that thing, whole thing. But it says Star Studios instead of 20th Century. So this is acquired, I guess, through 20th Century, that whole connection there. It's from 2022. It's 2 hours and 49 minutes long. Yeah, this is a mega movie. This is on par with like the Avengers, last two Avengers films. And there's a reason I say that, because it is very much a superhero film. Based on, of course, the mythology and the religions of the Hindu faith in India, all the different things, and obviously Shiva, if you know, or Shiva. I say Shiva, but they say Shiva in the film. That's the main character. That's our hero. It's very much, but it's very much structured. It's very much. There's lots of exposition, by the way. If there's any kind of slowdown or failing in this film, and I don't know if it's called a failing necessarily, but it is the fact that they spend an awful lot of time explaining things to the audience by explaining things to our main character, who is a reluctant hero, as normally you do. You get the Joseph Campbell kind of vibes here, the call to heroics, and then why am I not getting that phrase right? It's the call to my brain's not working. But then there's also the rejection to the call, and then of course the acceptance of the call, and in a dire moment when the villains, of course, are all about ready to win everything. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, because odds are most of us who aren't Indian, who haven't seen this film otherwise, most of us haven't watched this. I'm willing to bet most, but I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice by just skipping this over. If you love comic book movies, if you love Star Wars, there are elements of all of these things. Joseph Campbell, the whole thing. There's screaming happening in the background. Can you hear that? I can hear that. That's the neighbors. Yay. But this film, apparently it was experienced in IMAX at one point. I don't know if in the US, but it's certainly, it looks like a major blockbuster type film. It's how the Indian culture, how the India received it, I have no idea. But if you're the type of person who enjoys just a good standard structured superhero yarn, but with the flourishes, just humongous, not even a flourish is probably an understatement. It is very much couched in the religious and structure of the Hindu faith and all the different gods. They have something that, again, I shouldn't say that it sounds like it's copying Marvel, because odds are Marvel copied all of this, or variations of different religions and things like that. But there's a whole structure called the Astraverse, basically. There's so many MacGuffins in this. Well, there's one main thing that has three pieces, and they got to collect them all before the bad guys do. And if the bad guys get a hold of the three pieces, they're going to destroy the world. That's just going to happen. And if you know, there's also the fact that there's generations and generations of people who have been given the power of the Astras, sort of like Infinity Gems to a certain degree, but not like all powerful things. More like things that give them superpowers that mimic certain skills, like with a bow and arrow. You can shoot arrows that blast people or things. There's also things that mimic nature, like fire and wind and water and things like that. So it's very Last Airbender-ish to a certain degree. Again, all these things cross over each other. I can't say that anything is stealing from anything else, because, again, if anything, Americans love to steal things from other cultures. It's just what we do. But yeah, it's so we got generations of people who have all these certain abilities, and then they pass them down to another generation, and that's a whole other part of the film that I don't even want to get into. That's just sort of a side little bonus thing beyond the main character storyline. And of course, along with this being a big action fantasy, this is also a musical. Yeah, there are moments of music, and thankfully, even though this is overdubbed into English by default on Disney Plus, you can switch to other languages if you want, or the original, I believe, I would think, in Hindi. Sorry. You can switch to each of the language options. The songs that are performed are in the original language, and so there are subtitles for those parts. But I turned the subtitles on for the entire thing because I was pretty much like, okay, yeah, I as much as it's very much English subtitles, like English voice, English language English language dubs, I should say. It's also very much Indian accent dubs. So just to make sure I caught everything, I didn't want to just be, well, what did they say? What, sometimes the accent might throw me off. It's me, it's not them. So what we get is we're introduced to Shiva, who is a DJ. Literally, you don't have to go after a very authoritative voice. I don't know who performs that voice, but it sounds familiar. Very authoritative voice, gives us a whole background, kind of a introduction to the gods and the powers and the astras and all the other things. We move into meeting our hero, and he is kind of like Aladdin, who finds his Jasmine, let's just say. He finds this beautiful girl, and oh my gosh, she is just absolutely gorgeous, my opinion as well. She's very pretty, and he falls in love with her even from a distance, but he's a DJ, and he loves putting on parties. But by the way, not even 15 minutes into this, yes, you get a big Bollywood song and dance thing, just talking about singing and dancing. That's really all the subject is about. It's not about the storyline or the plot or the astras or trying to tell us, it communicates, deep in the story with any of this. No, it's just like I love singing and dancing. I love this community and family and everything else and all these things, and the whole crowd just gets into it. And it's a big production. If you're not used to seeing these things, if you're not used to seeing Bollywood type stuff, I don't think they ever really skimp on the production when it comes to these big song and dance numbers. But when this one, this is meant to be, what if the Avengers had a big Bollywood dance number 15 minutes into the film? And again, at this point, there's no superheroes in this. This is very much a kid called from his place, his home, his place that's humble, and called to a greater purpose. Even though he doesn't understand that greater purpose, he constantly has these kind of seizures, in a sense, that tells him something's going on, and he doesn't know what's going on. It knocks him out. Like, it's something, it really builds up inside him, and it's part of the mystery as to what's going on with him, for the audience and for him, of course, himself. He doesn't understand it, we don't understand it, and it builds the mystery. And yeah, it's it's that Luke Skywalker moment. And I without giving away too much else, yes, there is, to say Star Wars elements in this is obvious, but Star Wars, of course, has some similar structure that, I could say it has Harry Potter elements in it. Like I said, Last Airbender elements into it. It has all those things because they all borrow from the same structure for the most part. That, like, Joseph Campbell kind of call to, why can't I say the phrase? Call to action? Call to action doesn't seem right. That sounds like that sounds like something else. But it's a call to their mission in life. And yeah, there's big effects, big car chases, people falling off of ledges and cliffs a lot in this film, in slow motion, seeing them as they fall. There's They do it a lot. I don't know if it's a thing, like, the whole Bollywood dance sequence. I don't know if that's a thing in Indian movies, but people falling off of edges of things into the abyss below is a prominent element. This is also, like I said, he falls in love with this beautiful girl, Isha. And by the way, our hero here is Ranbir Kapoor, and Isha is Alia Bhatt. They are our main characters here. It is a big romance. There are moments where they just sort of cut away from the action. There's almost a falling in love kind of sequence where they sort of have to explore this new area they have to go to in order to move the plot along, but they sort of sidestep the plot for a little bit so you can see how they slowly fall in love and experience a new place together. And so if if you're ever looking for a date movie where the guy's like, I want to see a superhero action flick, and she wants to see a beautiful romance in a gorgeous land, very romantic, just romantic all the way around in all the ways that romantic means. Look it up. It means adventure and things. It's all these things pretty much thrown into this film. It seems like, they're like, hey, you know what? We're spending a lot of money in this film, and let's just hit all the bases. Just boom, 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 boom. Just hit them all. So yeah, it's full of action. There's humor, lots of humor, lots of special effects, lots of back and forth between the heroes and villains. Yes, there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi type, and also different points in the film where we are teased with a dramatic turnaround of the camera. There's these older gentlemen that, to Americans, probably doesn't mean a thing. To most of us, but in Indian culture, Indian film, I believe these men are probably prominent Indian actors. Just guessing. It's like, suddenly you're just like, oh my gosh, we're watching a Marvel movie and this guy turns around and it's Clint Eastwood, or it's Harrison Ford, Harrison Ford is now in the Marvel universe, but still the idea is that it's a dramatic turn. And in fact, there's one where it's almost funny, and I almost think it was intentionally meant to be funny, where he's having sort of a vision, and there's a slow turnaround, and they keep stopping it and flicking it back, and you get the feeling that they're just messing with the audience, like, oh, who is it going to be? And then maybe if you read the credits, maybe you knew that this actor would be in it. But yeah, it's sort of like, hey, you know what? We're bringing our big superhero, Bollywood, just gods and monsters kind of thing all together in a film. Let's get these iconic actors that are beloved into these special roles. And even I seem to recognize some of them, even though I don't know them. I just feel like I've seen them in other stuff. I could be completely wrong, but I didn't do a ton of looking up. But they are pretty high up in the list of actors, along with our two leads. So I imagine that's intentional. But yeah, we get intense-looking bad guys. We get kind of zombie-ish minions powered by crystals, and there's a lot going on here. Then there's also an origin. Our hero Shiva does not know who his parents are. Never really knew them. He also has something of a great power that he fears and does not understand, and needs to train in the ways of this thing. So there's a lot going on here, as I said. But I think if you're not too like, oh my gosh, is this going to live up to my other enjoyment of Indian cinema? If you don't have that hang up, is it going to compare to your love of Marvel Comics movies? Maybe not. Again, there is a lot of talk of the power of love and everything else. There's big emotional moments, things that a lot of Marvel films kind of skip over. There's no philosophy very often. There is, obviously when we're dealing with Marvel films, a lot of the things when characters stop long enough to talk about motivation, it tends to be relating to family and relating to doing the right thing, or selfish thing, or whatever it else is, the heroic thing in the face of what is safe and what is right, or the face of what's wrong. But in this, of course, there is just a clear, laid out conversation that where does this great power, where do these choices come from? It comes from love, lightness versus dark. It is not subtle whatsoever. But you know what? Hey, it's not a bad message. If you're going to call it a message film, it's not really a message film, but it's got a message. So this is the kind of thing. Again, it also, and I realize I say this, they're many. We could say they're mimicking the success of Marvel Comics films and things like that. They're inspired by comics. Well, you know what? We've done that with Thor. Like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee put Thor, a Norse god, and his pantheon, Odin, and everything else, in a version of those gods into the Marvel universe. And you could see that. I see elements of the Eternals in this as well. Which are a multi-cultural, ancient civilization of characters, which, and Jack Kirby's New Gods over at DC. All these things end up, have inspired films or TV series or more comics. At the very end of this film, during the credits, it is very clear that a lot of the inspiration did come from comics. There might be comics based on these films. Again, based on the gods and that pantheon, because all over the end credits is all comic book type art depicting our heroes and villains. So yeah, it's not subtle. And I was like, Shiva, that's if I know anything about Hindu gods, I know that. But forgive me if I get any of this information wrong. You can correct me in the comments, but honestly, I'm not well versed in any of these things. So forgive me if I misname or mispronounce something. But if I know anything about Shiva, is that it was a many-armed god. And I usually had thought it was depicted as female, but Shiva. And I always thought it was the destroyer. I thought that was the kind of the subtitle to the name of that god, but Shiva is our hero, and well, some of my questions were answered. Why is this story complete? Not at all, because of course the title says part 1. There's a part 2 and a part 3 that have not been made yet, as far as I know. So I looked at briefly. I saw when I searched this on IMDb, I saw there was a Brahmastra part 1, part 2, part 3, and they didn't have their subtitles, even though the subtitle for the second one appears at the end of this film. So, speaking of character names, one of the funny things I found in this was kind of a big bad is named, spelled D-E-V. To me, that's Dev, but Indian language calls him Dave. And for a bad guy to be named Dave to Americans, it's just a funny name. It was like calling him Joe or Steve or Doug, something like that. But yeah, it's only funny in my head. It's not like funny. So yeah, if you want another superhero film that I mean kids can enjoy, parents can enjoy, and there's nothing controversial, offensive, or anything else, although they do something at the very end of the big battle that really surprised me, that I'm not going to say what it is, but it's something that you just don't normally do in comic book movies. It's something, or just hero-villain movies, even if it's sci-fi or fantasy or things like that. You just don't do that. They did, and I was very surprised when it happened. And it's on camera. It's not like it's, oh, hey, you know that thing? Well, that's pretty bad that happened. No, it's literally something that was pretty surprising. So I do recommend this. Don't expect this to fit into your MCU sensibility. It's very much about talking about Indian culture, Indian pantheon of gods and things like that. And you know what? Hey, learn about another culture. That's not a bad thing. Have fun with it. Although I feel like I'm living the heat of India because it's so hot this weekend here in LA. It's just so hot. Even the iPad is hot. Good grief. No, don't go that way. So, yeah. I would say check it out. Who you are, where you're from, might have a great impact on whether you like this thing or not. But I think this is the kind of thing you could throw a bunch of preteens in front of and they might get a kick out of it. Some of them might be turned off by the romance. Some of them might find it the dancing a little strange. But you know what? Try something different. Captain America and Iron Man. Honestly, if I saw Iron Man and Captain America just dancing along with the crowds of people around them, I think that would be funny. That would be really funny. We have Rogers the musical, but that is not the same thing. So let's pick tomorrow's episode. 132. 132 is come on. Oh, speaking of Marvel. Oh wow. This kind of fits, sort of. It's a neat connection. I've been talking about Marvel. This is not Marvel, but this is a Marvel Studios behind the scenes. It's the making of, and it fits in with this just a little bit because one of our characters is Pakistani, but not Indian, but Pakistani. I'm not going to get into that just to save my own skin. But this is Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of the Marvels, featuring Ms. Marvel. I mean, honestly, the most I've ever learned about Indian or Pakistani culture, or the Great Divide, and all the stuff like that. All that stuff, I know from watching the Ms. Marvel series on Disney Plus. Most Americans, I'm willing to bet, have no comprehension of any of that part of the world. We barely have a comprehension of our part of the world. We've done a really good job hiding our history, the really bad parts that make some of us look bad. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But what we're going to do tomorrow is watch Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of the Marvels, all those Marvels, on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.